All right, hello, wonderful people. Here we are, where are we at? Chapter 9 already. We're just flying through this textbook. HRM, know those three letters. Like CRM, which we talked about earlier. You remember that, Customer Relationship Management. Here we're talking about Human Resource Management with HRM. I've said it once, I'll say it again. We're going to spend some brief moments on a chapter that you could easily spend several semesters on. And of course, many of my colleagues have PhDs and graduate diplomas in HRM. So let's see if we can do it some justice. One of the things that I wanted to highlight on here for the lecture is forecasting human resource demand. This is not an easy process. Whether you're in HRM or not, you're going to have an impact on the organization's HRM. And forecasting the demand, what's needed, is an incredible priority process for you. You need to be able to identify, you need to be able to see, let's say for an example, you're bringing in new capital equipment. When I worked, you know how I like to go back many moons, when I worked for the Anchorage School District, one of the things that they asked me to do when they brought me on board as a foreman was to automate their warehouse and to automate their inventory system. Well, not only did we have to get the people on board trained, but because of the automation, because of the technology that was coming in place, I also needed to be able to forecast that I was going to need to have somebody who had, well, for lack of a better term, MIS, Management Information System. I needed to have somebody who was strong in that area that could come in and manage that portion to ensure we got good products that were being, management products that were being produced through the data and the information that we're putting into our system. And we're going to go over data and the information in a later chapter. So forecasting the resource demands is an important process. It's a detailed process. And we're going to do our very best in this class as we go further with further discussions to go over everything from skill inventories to the charts that are used, etc. But I got to move on because we have a lot of material. Matching supply and demand. I had an HRM specialist who happened to be in one of my classes. My classes are filled with incredibly what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a treasure chest to me of experience in my classrooms, and I'm sure right now I have the same type of experience in the class. Anyway, she was nice enough to do an overview of HRM for us because she had just got done with a training that her company sent her down to Vegas to take care of. And she was talking about supply and demand, and she says, you know, not to be rude, but labor, you know, your strict labor around the company, everything from maybe janitorial services or things of that nature were not difficult to find people for. Then you move up into things like driving trucks and handling forklifts. More skills are required. So again, the supply and demand starts to change. Now all of a sudden there's less of a supply because you've got more skills involved, and so with that the demand goes down when you have the supply going up. And then of course she had scientists. And scientists that were specialists in petroleum area, and that required even a more specialized degree program, which again means supply was not very strong, and there was a strong demand for that particular career field. So with that, she would have to put a lot of her emphasis on scouring the planet to find the scientists to come in to take care of the demand for the organization. Talk to me about supply and demand a little bit more with HRM. Send me your emails. Let's talk about that, because that's an extraordinarily important part of the HRM process. And then you're also developing job descriptions and job specifications. You, the operations, you, the manager, are working with HRM developing these things. In particular, you're going to be developing the job specification. What's the difference? Well, when you get with the job specification, now you're getting into the qualification. What do I, Jim, the department head of this operations portion of the company, what do I need? What are the specializations I need from you, the potential worker coming into my company? And so I need to let HRM know what those specs are. And then with those specs, they build what's called a job description, which entails everything that's required, the whole person type of a picture of what's required. What you see when you apply for a job, they'll put out the job description. If you came through the front desk of the company I work for and asked for a job description or asked for information on a company for a job, they would give you a job description, not the job specifications, which are totally different. So be able to tell me the difference between the two. Recruiting. I mentioned to you before, I was a recruiter. And I spent many, many years as a college recruiter, and I love recruiting. Now, I would be out there beating the bushes and doing the best job I could to ensure that I brought in a quality product and ensure that I was providing a quality product. Our university had to provide a quality product because we had to provide to our wonderful clients, you, the students, an incredible, important service of education. But at the same time, I had to make sure that the students I was bringing into our program, and in this case a high-tech program, had the attributes, had the academic prowess, had the credentials to be able to do well in that environment. I didn't want to set people up for failure because that would also then hurt me, the recruiter, and hurt the reputation of the company. If I just bring in anybody to try to get my recruitment numbers up high, I need to bring in quality that matches the needs of both the academics and the need of my clients. Okay. It was also important to mention in your book that external recruiting is an important process, but internal recruiting is also important. Now here's the caveat when you're internal. It's great to give people the opportunity to get promotions, new jobs, job enrichment within the company. Incredibly important, but you have to have that balance with the external. Because if you continue to just recruit inside and just move people up, that could lead to a kind of a groupthink mindset. So it is good to every once in a while to bring in some fresh people, external. So you keep bringing people with new ideas, fresh innovation, so the company stays on top and stays in tune with what the requirements are out there of our clients and of our customers. But internal recruiting is important. But another thing I want to bring up is the disadvantage of that process, because if I move person A to person B's position and they're all happy, and I'm glad for them, I'm happy for them, I have this position over here to fill again. So here I go again. And if I go inside, then I have another position to fill. So it could become a never-ending process until you finally get to a point where you have to go external. Just consider that. But you don't want to, and I plead with you, you do not want to do this. And I've seen it in organizations. I know this may sound crazy, but I've seen it in organizations, and I bet you some of you out there have seen it also. Somebody is so good at what they do, that they're not allowed to advance because they become so good. The leadership won't allow them to advance because they don't want to lose them in what they're doing. What they're doing is so productive for the company. It's great, but yet there's a salary levels and wage levels that have already been established. And this person has hit the ceiling, and there's nowhere for them to go but to a newer position to allow them to grow. And I've seen it in organizations. I plead with you not to have that mindset. It's not always what's just best for the department. It's what's best for the organization. So always keep that organization as a whole, not just your department, and going into a fiefdom type of mindset. So stay away from that. Okay, interviews. One of your processes you're going to be working on is resumes. I'd love to see your resumes. I understand for some of you, maybe the first time. For many of you, you probably put out at least a basic resume. What I want to see from you is a basic resume. Because what? Interviews. I ask people, how do you get a job? What does a resume do for you? It gets you a job. No, it doesn't. It does not get you a job. The best thing a resume can do for you is it gets you an interview. Now, imagine you, the HRM, you, the operations manager, and you get 5,000 resumes for 5 jobs. And yes, that happens. So the process of being able to go through all of these resumes, I hate to say it, sometimes it's a very quick process. I mean, they're just skimming and separating and then separating again until they get it down to 4 or 5. So it's extremely important that you have a strong resume. And I'll be glad to give you any tips when I see the homework assignments when you turn them into me. But that's what the resume does for you, is get you the interview. And then when you get to the interview, people don't like this sometimes. You're selling your attributes. You're not selling yourself. You're not selling your soul. You're selling your attributes. When you're in there, it's one-on-one. It's important to understand from you as the person who's in the interview, or you as the person who are viewing the people who are being interviewed, to see how they react to questions that have been set up purposely to make them think on their feet, to see how they react as far as eye contact, how they react, and maybe something as simple as how well prepared are they for what the organization is all about, and also how well prepared are they with their dress. I constantly tell my professionals, dress well, and make sure you're extremely professional regardless of the position you're going for, and look professional. Okay, a lot in this chapter. It was so hard for me just to kind of skim through for this lecture here, the video lecture. But another area I really wanted to hit on was performance feedback. Usually the HRM process will ensure that the department leads and supervisors are performing what's called feedback. Often it's through an annual appraisal. Here's the thing I've seen that you need to watch out for as leaders and managers. Do not allow the annual performance feedback to become a time to tell a person all of their faults. Think about that just for a second. Maybe some of you have been down that road. That is the improper use of it. What you want to be able to do is to have your annual appraisals, let them know what their strengths are. Again, let them know, and I've talked about this in the past, let them know where they need to improve on. But keep it positive. And then don't make it just once a year. Continuously. The feedback has to be a continuous process. Going back to TQM, a continuous process of letting employees, letting other managers and supervisors know where they're going in the right direction, where they need to calibrate or modify a particular behavior or method. So it's an important process that can really be a positive attribute to your company, and of course the bottom line is towards your production. HRM is a wonderful topic. It's something that we could spend literally months talking about, and we're just going to spend a few hours on. So I've had people who've, after this class, told me that this is an area they want to go in. They just find it to be so fascinating, and I hope to find some of you out there in this virtual class that have maybe some of the same feelings, and I'll be glad to field any questions. That's it for this chapter. It was a quick overview, and I look forward to your questions. Have a good day.